All right. So good evening. It is Monday, the 20th of April, and thanks for joining me. It's Tim Ashe, President of the Vermont State Senate. We are now well more than a month into this new reality we're in, and trying to make sense of where we head next. And I've got a couple updates, but primarily I'm going to talk about one of the features of life as a legislator, which is that other crises do not stop just because we're in the middle of a pandemic. So the update is that the number of new cases over the weekend was about 10 new cases. The number of people who are hospitalized either with a positive test or with a suspicion of a positive test remains in the mid 50s, which is about 10 lower than it has been for quite a period of time. So that's a very positive, that's positive news in the sense that it is going down and not up. And as we know, today is the first day that many very small operations like landscaping crews of one or two, or sole proprietors who might be a contractor doing exterior painting, things like that. So low touch, low interaction, two or fewer crews where social distancing of 6 feet is still allowed. That's the kind of thing that is operating today for the first day. I've received some communications from people in different professions, some of whom actually preferred that we not allow certain activities to move forward. One example is realtors. There are some realtors who I think are happy to be able to re-engage with clients. Others are concerned that there's no safe way for them to do it, especially if they're showing a house and there's lots of people coming and going. So I suspect in the next couple days there will be discussions about what to do to adjust the governor's latest easing of the economic activity restrictions. The Agency of Commerce and Community Development is actively soliciting people who have questions about whether the governor's easing applied to them. For instance, I had heard from a number of people who are hairstylists who, of course, have been completely out of commission now for 5 or 6 weeks, asking if this applied to them, since it's just the one person. And at present, the answer to that is no. But for people who maybe have less clear-cut cases, you can call the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, and they will give some either advice, guidance, or it'll allow them to have an internal discussion about whether they think it's appropriate. So now I'm going to turn, though, to what has been the latest wave of anxiety in the state, and it began on Friday morning, and it is COVID-19 related, though in a slightly different way. So most of last week, there were some rumors going around about an imminent proposal to be voted on or that was going to be floated by the state college system relating to the future of their campuses. So for those who are less studied in higher education in Vermont, the state college system is a unified system that consists of Linden and Johnson together under the auspices of Northern Vermont University. They were merged a couple years ago into Northern Vermont University. Castleton State down in Castleton, Vermont Technical College, which is primarily located in Randolph, also has a satellite campus in Williston, and also the CCV system, which of course is all throughout the state, many locations. And so the rumors were sort of buzzing. Whenever there are rumors about proposed reconfigurations of the state college system or any large institution, it's very unsettling. So Friday morning, I convened an informal but public discussion of the entire Vermont Senate. We had all 30 senators on a call that was viewed by the public. And we all basically talked about what we knew and what we suspected could come and how we might react if under different scenarios. It was actually during that call that many of us learned that the proposal was going to call for the closure of Linden, Johnson, and the Vermont Technical College campus in Randolph. There were some noted audible gasps from some who had potentially thought that there might be one campus, maybe even two, but three was something that many people hadn't really conceived of. So later that day, the chancellor of the state college system, Chancellor Spalding, did formally announce a proposal to close Northern Vermont University, the Johnson and Linden campuses, to close Vermont Technical College in Randolph and migrate some of their programs to the Williston campus, which is near exit 12, and to direct as much of the curriculum and student bodies of the three closed campuses to Castleton State. What was the particularly, the whole situation is very distressing, and I'll get into why the proposal came forward in a moment. But they also said that the Board of Trustees, the state college system, is overseen by a Board of Trustees, which is comprised largely of people who are self-perpetuated. Those who have been on a board of directors know that that means that the board itself cultivates potential future board members and brings them on by an election process. And then some of them are elected officials who are elected by the legislature. The legislature casts a vote on some UVM trustees and some state college trustees each year. And so what we learned was that they were going to vote as soon as today. So the quick summary is that on Friday, the communities of Randolph, Johnson, and Linden, not to mention all the students who go to those campuses, the faculty and staff, were notified that 2.5 days later there'd be a vote to close them down. So I think it goes without saying that in the midst of everything else that's going on, this was very, very stressful news to all involved. So Friday, my phone started blowing up and my computer started to overheat with emails of people from throughout the state who are either students, current or former, faculty, current or former, community members, local officials who were totally in panic mode. Saturday morning, I contacted the Speaker of the House, Speaker Johnson. We both had a couple firm beliefs. One was that it was not appropriate for the Board of Trustees with just 2 days notice to vote to close anything down, that was effectively an insult to the community members, the students, the faculty, the staff, the host communities, and that should not happen. The second thing is we believe that while things must change with our state college system, and I'll talk about that in a moment, the way to change it is not clearly with an immediate plug being pulled with no plan to replace it, but rather with some kind of transition to whatever the new configuration would look like. So we put together a statement early Saturday, sent it out, effectively saying right out of the gates that we said, put simply, the board should not move forward with a vote on Monday to close anything or to make any dramatic change in the configuration of the system. We proceeded to say that we had very serious concerns that the options being considered had not completely, it really looked like two options: status quo, which is not very good right now, or this idea of closing 3 campuses. Well, without any forewarning, it was not clear to those of us in leadership positions in the state or the people on the ground whether other options were considered, why they might have been rejected, what to do next. So we called on the Board of Trustees to announce publicly yesterday that they would postpone the vote. And I was very, very relieved when, in fact, they did announce publicly that they would postpone the vote. So what they did was said that they would meet today and they'd talk about the proposal and other things. They would delay the vote by at least 1 week. So we don't know what is quite going on in terms of their decision making at the moment, but we know that at least a week has been purchased by our action to allow us to speak to the chancellor, the chair of the board, the governor's team, to try and think through how we might come up with a more successful transition plan that balances the broader community needs and the state interests about having healthy communities with a realistic, viable financial plan for the state college system. Now, the reason I say something will have to change, it's not because I'm a higher education professional or that I have all the answers. I don't. We believe in higher education, and that's what our legislative role is to support our public institutions. But we also have to look at the challenges and be realistic about them. The state college system has had financial issues for many years. That's well known. We have put some infusions in the last few years, each time with the promise that it would turn things around. It has not. And that picture, as the state college system says, is not going to look brighter moving ahead. They anticipate very significant deficits in the months and years ahead if nothing changes. COVID-19 plays a role because the state college system has, as a result of having to send students home, is sending millions of dollars in refunds for room and board to students on top of a deficit that already existed. The state college system is receiving some funds from the federal government under one of these relief bills. It's not a big sum of money, and 50% of it basically has to be sent to students to help them mitigate the financial implications of what's going on. So the state college system, even with that infusion of federal cash, is worse off than they were before. Now, that's part one of the COVID story. Now, part two of the COVID story is that it is not 100% clear what is going to come of the fall semester, the fall academic semester for not just the state college system, but all higher ed across the country. This has been a body blow to higher ed throughout the country. In the short term, the summer classes, we know that enrollment will significantly drop because people will not be on the campus this summer. It does not appear. All of the bookings for conferences and camps, some of the like Vermont Institute type camps that happen at our state colleges and use the dorms and all that, those are all essentially shut down. So state college has lost that revenue. So it's trying to recruit students for the fall who can't visit campus now to see whether they'd like it and whether it would be a good fit. They can't bring people from out of state for the same reason. Out of state tuition generally comes in higher than in-state tuition. And so the situation for the fall is very, very uncertain, but not encouraging. And so as we understand it, the state college system believes that they need to act very swiftly because very quickly they're going to run out of money. So where does that leave us now? What the speaker and I proposed was that we use this week not to solve the future of the state college system, but we set in motion a few things. First, an economic analysis of the impacts of a closure on each of the three host communities. Now, the reason this is important is because from the point of view of the state, the existence of a college campus, which is often an anchor institution in a community, is both an important higher education resource, but it is also the foundation upon which these communities' local economies have been built. And so better understanding what the impact would be from a financial point of view of closing a campus helps us understand whether we would be worse off closing it down from a financial point of view versus providing additional subsidy to keep it going and make the dollars work. The second thing we asked for and want to work with the state college system to achieve is to bring in some outside experts who have taken bad situations like this and come up with new ways of delivery, so that we know we're considering all the best options, not just the school closure plan. That might take some time, and that leads to the third piece. Because it might take some time, and in fact it could take 6 months or more to come up with the best thinking, we want to talk about what it would look like to have a 1-year bridge budget so that we provide sufficient funds to operate the campuses in an adequate way to make sure students are still getting a high quality education, leading them over sort of the gap to whatever the system might look like out a year or beyond, whatever the time frame is. So economic analysis of what it would mean to a community to shut down, bring in some people from the outside who have insights about reorganizing the delivery model especially for a public higher education system, and then 3, crafting a transitional budget so that we can not pull the rug out from people while we evaluate what ought to look ahead. So COVID-19 has put a deep stressor on an already challenged system, and that's why I'm spending so much time today. So the Senate has been talking regularly about what to do about this, and the 3 steps that I just described largely reflect what we've coalesced around. And I would say that in the next few days, our success in achieving those 3 legs of that stool will depend largely on the governor's team and the state college leadership coming on board and agreeing on those 3 steps. I can't say that we will be successful, but we're going to do everything we can to try. So stay tuned for that. It is a very difficult moment for those communities now, with so much uncertainty over their heads anyways, to now have this sword hanging over their campuses without a backup plan clearly articulated. And so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the communities aren't left high and dry. Last update for today. I believe it was Friday afternoon, the governor announced that if the Department of Labor wasn't having more success clearing out the backlog of the first wave of unemployment problem cases, then he would make a decision Saturday night on whether to just start cutting checks from the state treasury and figure, I don't mean to treat it lightly, but figure out the way to make up the money and calculate it properly later. The Department of Labor, as we understand it, has made significant progress with reducing many of the problem case backloads so that people's benefits will start getting paid. They did not get all the way there. And so the governor made the decision that approximately 8,000 people would have $1,200 checks mailed out. They went in today's mail. They'll start arriving in people's mailboxes as soon as tomorrow. What I want to ask all of you to do, and I say this somewhat worried about the response, is I still have deep concerns that the Department of Labor has a handle on how many people still haven't received the initial unemployment benefit. So many people were calling and struggling to get through that I can't say that I'm confident when I hear the numbers about how many cases remain to be resolved. I'm not confident that that is true. I hope it is, but I'm not confident. So I would ask you to email me if you are continuing to be unable to get through to the Department of Labor's Unemployment Division to properly address the problems you're having, because I need to, trust me, the reality of this has been so bleak that I don't want some positive developments to gloss over the continuing hardship that people are having accessing the benefits to which they're entitled. So please email me. There's the easiest email address to use for the moment would be tashe, Tashe, @leg.state.vt.us. You could just Google me. You'll find my email address in 1,000 different places. The other update on the benefit front is that at long last, the Department of Labor has indicated that effective tomorrow, people will be able to start formally applying for the self-employed and independent contractor benefit. I almost hesitate to say it because I'll believe it when I see it, but our understanding is that it will be ready for people to start submitting applications tomorrow. It is very, very strongly my hope that that is true. I have continued to advocate directly to the governor and to his team that we should err on the side of too much capacity of call takers and people working on problem cases rather than try to get it precise and have too few people. I know that after weeks of pressing, and I'm not saying this is why, but I am happy to hear that they are adding a pretty decent number of additional call takers. I would still double whatever they're planning on doing to be safe. But I also want to hear which problems and challenges you're having with this new wave of submissions. The software program is new. That gives me some major heartburn because I've seen what happens with new software programs that thousands of people are going to access all at once that haven't been tested live before. So I hope it works out, but if it is not serving your needs, please let me know so I can get real feedback directly to the governor as quickly as possible. So with that, none of my updates are very cheerful, but I want to just acknowledge that all the people who are concerned about the state college situation should know that while I think all legislators believe that there do need to be some changes, there's a right and a wrong way about going about it, and trying to vote with 2 days notice was not the right way to go about it. Now the question of what to do next, we believe that we should have a thoughtful time period to have a transition plan and not leave community, students, faculty, everybody, in the lurch. So we'll do everything we can to come up with a good plan or a good approach, a good process. And I just ask people to hang in there because it's a very, very stressful time, unquestionably, especially if your education or your job is on the line. I totally get that. I hope that the unemployment situation starts clearing up as soon as tomorrow, but please don't let press releases guide my thinking. You tell me directly what the real deal is. So tomorrow I am going to talk largely about mental health efforts during this crisis. Wednesday, I'm going to have my first ever guest. We're going to try to do a Zoom sort of switch over here to Facebook Live. And so I hope you'll check out my first special guest who has the ability to speak intimately about decision making throughout this crisis. And in the meantime, I hope you continue to stay safe. I think it's a tribute to the people of Vermont that we're faring better than other states as we have taken the measures we've taken, and hope you'll continue to stay safe. Thanks.